Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here today with good buddy Adam.
Yes, hello.
And, where we are amateur historiologists, as we've said before in the past. So today, I have titled this episode A Game of Thrones, because I think that, we are literally watching a live action version of the Game of Thrones happening right now. And it's to essentially determine who's going to come out on top as the world power.
Explain what that means, because for those that aren't familiar with Game of Thrones, because it has been some time since that series, and maybe many people do not care for fantasy, but what do you mean for that series in context of what's happening?
So basically, and I'll get to it with a quote from Game of Thrones, but in Game of Thrones, essentially, it is everybody's vying to be the king, right? Everybody wants to be the man or the woman in charge of the realm, essentially. So in Game of Thrones, it's a constant political warfare, espionage, sabotage. It's a constant moving, archetype of everybody trying to vie for that control. And some people want to control just a little bit, and some people want the whole fucking thing. And it's all those little pieces kind of coming together and playing off of each other. And one small little move that was made in one area could determine the outcome of a major conflict between two of the largest powers in the story or whatever. And there's a quote in there that somebody says, I forget who says it. I think it might be this one character he's the spider. He's like the little espionage kind of guy, like the head of all the espionage shit. And he says, when you're playing a Game of Thrones, you either win or die. And that's kind of where things are going at this rate with the total global kind of conflict and how everything is shaping out. Good.
All right. Beyond that, there are characters and regions within the story, which is kind of what I was hoping you would get at, because the largest region, I forget what it's called. Is it Westeros?
Yeah, Westeros is the whole thing, is the main body of the story where it takes place, right?
Right. So are you going to be making parallels between that?
No. I'm not making parallels to it at all.
Forget it.
I was just saying how we're watching the real life live version of this play out amongst all of the world powers and even some of the non-world powers that are happening right now. Okay. And I want to just make a fucking prediction first off, and I'll get into how it ties off, but I believe that within the next 4 to 5 years, there will be a detonation of a nuclear device somewhere in the world. I don't know who's going to do it. Well, I think I'll get to who I think might do it first. And I'll even get more specific than that. I think that prior to 2028, or I should say the January of 2029, when whoever's the president will take over, I think that the United States will likely be the one to do it with some sort of a tactical nuclear device. And the reason why I come to that conclusion is based on some rumors that I had heard, and now part of it's being reported, or the main issues being reported now in the mainstream, and Reuters, I think, did and the Washington Post did a little blurb about it. And basically it's that there's this guy right now in the United States. He's the Undersecretary of War for Policy, and his name's Eldridge. I think Eldridge Colby. All right. He's the United States Undersecretary of War for Policy. So he's one of the high-level Department of War, appointed officials. And he's below, obviously, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and he's one of the lower, he's a higher level, underling of the Secretary of War. And so this guy's whole purpose is to basically draft policy and Department of War like doctrine. And so one of the things that was kind of reported, was rumored like 2 or 3 months ago, and I didn't really say anything about it because this is just unconfirmed, like rumors swirling throughout the fucking internet and through the circles of like intelligence communities and things like that. And one of the rumor was that this guy was redrafting the nuclear doctrine for the United States to include or to reflect a new posture of utilizing smaller, for lack of a better term, tactical nuclear weapons. So smaller kiloton than our fucking Minuteman III missiles. Like, I mean, I'm talking like, 1-2 kiloton, type of nuclear weapons that are not going to cause like a huge, they're not to wipe out cities, essentially. They're, to be small battlefield tactical nukes, essentially. And they were to be used in, the rumors were that they were talking and swirling that they were going to be used in Iran. And so the story that kind of has come out over the last few days, in like it's gotten like no play at all, but it's I found a blurb of it from Reuters, and it basically said that the U.S. Undersecretary of War Policy is redrafting nuclear doctrine to reflect the threat of a limited tactical nuclear engagement with China and Russia, China or Russia, I should say. And so they are now redrafting this doctrine and the policy to reflect acceptable uses of like the tactical nuclear weapons in small limited engagements. And so the thing that we talked about before when we were talking about kind of how the beginning of this Iran conflict took place, and when it, one of the first things that was being reported that, Trump was kind of like looking to do was like, well, why can't we just use nukes? Why can't we just use nukes and just be done with it? And the reported, answer he was given was, well, like, that's not like our doctrine, like that's off the table. That's not something our nuclear doctrine is essentially, there's a first strike capability essentially, but it's very fucking limited and minimally used and minimally scoped out. And the majority of our posture is for a retaliatory nuclear strike. That's the main purpose of our nuclear doctrine. Is it's really not to be used for like offensive purposes, for lack of a better term. It's to be more utilized for defensive purposes. So like if we were to be attacked, the doctrine states then that we can use it or whatever, right? Or if there was a nuclear launch, that we could then launch the nukes. That's kind of like the generally accepted nuclear doctrine of the United States.
What's the difference though? Like, is it that in case A of offense, they would use different nuclear weapons versus B would be defense? I don't understand.
So it would be in retaliation. So if someone launched nukes at us, then the doctrine, our nuclear doctrine is essentially called defense, although that would be an offensive action we would be taking. However, it would be as a retaliatory strike or a retaliatory launching of nuclear weapons. It wouldn't be us first striking somebody. Like, that's not really kind of like what our nuclear doctrine has been molded on. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because of the Cold War. Our doctrine was to reflect essentially, if the Russians were launching nukes at us, then this is what we would do.
I guess my question is, to follow up, if it were offensive, if there were offensive means within the doctrine or whatever, does that mean that there would be less, like the escalation ladder would be, oh, if we're going to go on offense, let's only do it on a small scale on another country so they know we mean business, versus like the defensive side going all in and just going with our whole arsenal and just letting it letting shit hit the fan.
So basically right now the way it sits is obviously the president's the only one that can authorize a nuclear strike, essentially. So what and it's up to the president's discretion, but if you give that order, you're still relying on someone to actually fire the missiles, right? Like the president he doesn't like have a direct button that like launches everything, right? That's kind of a misnomer with the nuclear football. The nuclear football sends out the orders, and it still takes two guys sitting in, two nuclear weapons officers sitting in the bunker to stick their keys in at the same time, turn the fucking thing, and then input the strike package that they're being told or whatever.
And what is like the scenario in which you have those two people, right? Or perhaps is there like a senior position over those two people that says, oh, I don't know about that. Like even they would defy the president. Like there's a deterrence against the president to say, no, this is too heavy. Like this is too much collateral damage, or this is going to cause a potential outright, like mutually assured destruction.
Yeah. So now, like, there are scenarios where, like, okay, on our nuclear submarines, right? Like the nuclear armed submarines, the captain of the ship is the ultimate one who would decide if this order is going to happen. So if he decides, hey, we got this order to launch nukes, I'm going to defy this order and not do it. He could do that. Now, granted, his executive officer and others could oust him as the captain and then relieve him of command and then follow the fucking order.
So there could be a mutiny.
There could be. And then when you're in the case of like our nuclear missile silos that are scattered throughout the Midwest and northern part of the United States, like the ones in, whatever, the publicly ones we know about, like in North Dakota or whatever, Montana, those ones, there's like two guys that sit there and they basically, if they are given the order with the coordinates of where to hit, they still got to put the thing in and launch it. And that's pretty much where it's at. Now, in terms of like defying the order, yeah, they could just decide they're not going to do it. It still takes both guys have to stick their fucking key in and turn the thing. So like if one of them decides not to do it, then they can't. The one guy can't launch the fucking missile.
Is there a punishment for that?
Well, yeah. I mean, like if it's turned out that you defied like the lawful order, then yeah, like you could, especially with something like that, like sure you could get the fucking death penalty or whatever. Like that's.
Well, what if it was unjust to do something like that because of the amount of people that could potentially die and escalating to a potential war?
I mean, yeah, like it would have to be. That would be something that would be determined like after the fact. It wouldn't be like, oh, right now, yeah, like we're just gonna fucking shoot you. I mean, when it comes to high stakes shit like that, who knows? There's someone in charge of the fucking missile array, like that's like a fucking general or some shit like that. So I'm sure they could fucking make the choice to do something like that if they wanted to. I mean, the Uniform Code of Military Justice is pretty, it can be pretty harsh when applied, by essentially a flag officer that's able to do that. So like a general, someone of the general officer ranks could do that if they wanted to. So anyways, so getting into how this affects this current issue and conflict that's going on is if we're in this like pause right now where we're not really fucking attacking, but Iran is still doing shit. And all the reports that have come out as of recent are the U.S. is running low on our advanced fucking missile systems, our Tomahawks, our JASSMs, all these advanced missile systems that are kind of like, for lack of a better term, they're referred to as a standoff weapon, where you can be outside of the range of your enemy and you can fire these missiles and they'll fucking hit the target that you're trying to hit. But you're outside of the range of where they could like theoretically strike you back with. So that's kind of what we've been using mostly. So now we're getting to the point where, okay, all the shit we've done hasn't really worked. It didn't open up the strait like we wanted to, right? The Strait of Hormuz. So now in terms of what we have left, yeah, we've got, I mean, we really do have an almost unlimited supply of like the dumb shit, like the dumb bombs, the gravity bombs, but that would require us to fly directly over the targets to hit them. We also have a shit ton of the short range stuff. So, I mean, yeah, we still have to fly over Iran, or we have to fly in the vicinity of where we were trying to hit. And that leaves us vulnerable to potentially airplanes getting shot down, bombers getting getting blown up and shit like that. So that puts us in a different like realm of, okay, we're not willing to take the losses of all these weapon systems or whatever, or these aircraft that we would probably have to do something like this. We don't, at this point, have 100% full air superiority because, I mean, we have had a couple things get shot down. So, like, you know, it's very possible that we could be facing, you know, major losses, especially if we wanted to send in Navy ships into the strait to physically open it up, which is why I think they haven't done it yet. They're not willing to take losses of ships. So if we're going to rewrite the nuclear doctrine to enable, you know, and the policies to enable the use of tactical nuclear weapons in regional conflicts, that would open the door for us to be able to use these things in this Iran conflict. And if, as we've talked about before, once that like nuclear kind of genie is let out of the bottle, there's no putting it fucking back in. That is the Pandora's box of the current modern times. And when we look at now what Iran is doing, they're almost making a strategic mistake by pushing too hard in getting demands. They should really just take what they're getting, which would be a really great deal for them. But now they're kind of like pushing the envelope as to what they're demanding. And one of those things right now that they're doing is they're working out a deal with Oman to control the Strait of Hormuz, where essentially the current deal as it stands, I mean, it hasn't been officially announced that it's been approved and ratified or whatever, but as the deal sits now currently, as it's being reported, is that the Iranians will control the inlet. There'll be two lanes. It'll be an inlet and then an outlet. So all ships coming through the Strait of Hormuz must use the Iranian inlet scheme, and they will go through and they will be charged a fee. They're negotiating right now, but it is believed that the Omanis are agreeing to somewhere between a 5 and 7% fee on the ships coming in as to what the value of their cargo. And if they're empty, then they're going to be paying 5 to 7% of what they're fully loaded, what they're coming in for. If they're coming in for oil, then they're going to pay 5 to 7% fee to cross based on what the full load of the ship would be, right? And then on the outside, the outlet lane, the Omanis are going to control, and they're going to charge a 3% fee for ships that are leaving. It's going to be a 3% fee of the value of the. So we could potentially see an 8 to 10% fee added on to the value of all this stuff. Now, just for context, there are other straits and canals that charge fees, right? The Bosphorus is one that's up there in the Turkish area. There's the Suez Canal, which goes through Egypt. There's the Panama Canal. Generally, those fees that they charge are between 0.1 and 0.5% of the total value of the cargo that's being transported through. Now, I want to reiterate, that's 0.1%, not 1%, 0.1% to 0.5%. So a tenth of a percent to a half of a percent is generally what those are charging. So a total 10% fee would be, I mean, that's like 1,000 times greater than what, fucking those guys are charging. So this is sort of an unprecedented move, and all of the shipping companies are kind of banding together urging the Western shipping companies, at least, are banding together to say, like, urge the international community to not accept this or whatever, because they don't, they don't want to fucking pay the fees. Which, in reality, they're just going to fucking pay the fees, and then the price is just going to get passed on to everybody who's buying these products or whatever that are coming out of here. These raw products such as oil or phosphorus or whatever the fuck's coming, shipping out of the Hormuz Strait. It's just going to be fucking 10% higher. And realistically, as we learned from the tariff situation that happened here, they're not just going to pass on whatever the tariff is. They're going to also tack on a little extra just because. So the prices are going to go up probably at least 12 to 15%. If this scheme is utilized and traffic then begins flowing through the Strait of Hormuz again. Now, one thing that the Iranians are doing that they're sort of starting to push too hard on, I think, is they're going through their parliament right now. There's a law that's going through, and it's seeming like it's going to pass, but nothing has passed yet. But in the next couple of days, it seems like it might pass. They're trying to pass this law regarding the Strait, and it's basically saying that any country that
well, first of all, Israel and the United States are barred from utilizing the strait for any reason. Completely barred. Okay? Then they're going to charge any country that was involved in the aggression against Iran during this war. So Saudi Arabia, fucking, Jordan or whatever, if all these other countries, those ships that are going to those ports or those countries, they're going to have to pay a 20% fee to come through and use it.
That's probably punishment to any auxiliary ally, so that if the U.S. were to say, "Hey, why don't we ship stuff with, say, I don't know, Uzbekistan,
right? Yeah.
Well, and then we'll just have our shit come through their boats, and it'll be all good. We won't have to deal with the fucking fees or whatever.
Right.
If that's even possible.
Well, no, because what they're doing is you have to declare what port you're going to when you're going through there, and then they're tracking you. And if you don't go to that port and you go to one of the ones that charges 20%, then they're gonna hold you up when you come through on the Omani side, and you're gonna have to pay the 20% and directly to Iran. And so that's kind of like what they're setting up right now to be kind of the thing. And now, if this is true and this does pass and the Iranians try to implement, I 100% guarantee we're going back to a full fucking war. And I think that's why they're trying to utilize this nuclear doctrine for these regional to use of nuclear weapons in regional conflicts. And yes, they're going to say, oh, it's because of Russia and China, but I guarantee that the language that will be used is going to be vague enough to where they can use this in this Iran situation, because at this point we have kind of run out of conventional options to fix this fucking problem that we've caused.
And leverage.
And leverage. We have no leverage. And what's unfortunate is Trump cannot negotiate us out of this anymore, because he's not willing to accept. He's been running off at the mouth that we will never let them charge fees. Well, they're already making a deal with Oman without us. We ain't involved in this. Both sides have said, yeah, we're not we're not doing this. And yes, I'm sure because the Omanis are semi-allied with us, that they are getting, hey, what should we do? I think we're probably just telling them, yeah, just go ahead and fucking sign this, because then that gives us more reason to be like, look, these guys are unreasonable. We can't negotiate with them. We have to do further military action to open up the strait. And when it comes down to it and the doctrine and the policies get changed, well, now we have to fucking use nuclear weapons. We have to use tactical nukes to open the strait. And we just nuked their fucking coastline so they can't fucking, shoot missiles at fucking ships anymore. And then the strait becomes open. That's where I think this shit's headed. Because that's really the only, in my view, from looking at this is the only logical fucking step. And once we fucking open that door, the Russians are going to use them in Ukraine. I don't think the Chinese will use them in Taiwan because they want to still utilize this place. But the Russians will drop one in Kiev and get them to fucking surrender. That'll just be it. It'll be over. They'll just fucking immediately surrender because they don't have nukes. And again, I still hold the theory, if anyone attacks a nuclear nation attacks a non-nuclear nation, that there isn't going to be a nuclear nation that's going to step in and defend them. Another interesting thing that's happening in relation to this is the Saudi Arabians are signing these defense pacts with Pakistan and with Turkey. And the Saudis are big time players when it comes to the dollar and when it comes to all this US shit that we have. Signing defense treaties and defense pacts with fucking Turkey and Pakistan, it ain't a good look for us. It's not a good look. It's showing that, hey, they don't think that we're going to fucking continue to be able to help them. So now they're looking to and Pakistan's nuclear armed. So they're hoping, well, shit, if Iran has the nuke and the US nukes them, hopefully they won't attack us because we have Pakistan, that Pakistan has this defense treaty with them saying if an attack on Saudi Arabia is an attack on fucking Pakistan. And so now we get into, well, if Iran attacks them, then shit, Pakistan's gonna have to fucking step in and do something. So they're probably hoping that will just be deterrent enough so that Iran won't fucking fuck with them too much. Now the Saudis also have their own fucking problems with the Houthis and Al-Anshala or whatever they're called, up there in Yemen. And right now there's a very high likelihood that the Houthis, along with the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, are prepping to do a major assault and a major attack on Saudi Arabia proper. And already, as of this evening here, it's Thursday, August 6th in the United States, but earlier in our evening, the Iraqis went on a full lockdown in the green zone areas, and they were patrolling with fucking armored vehicles, and they were conducting raids and attempting to disrupt this operation that they believe, that the Saudis believe and they believe is imminent to be attacked against the Saudis. And so it's not really known if what they're doing is effective or not, but the Yemenis have, or the Houthis have attacked the Yemeni capital. That's the what's viewed as the Yemeni government, quote unquote, capital, and they've killed a bunch of people and blown up a bunch of shit. So it seems as though the pieces are moving around. And one of the things that we've kind of talked about before is the similarities of this to fucking World War I and the pre-war kind of global scheme and the way it was. And essentially the British control everything, and there was this issue with the Germans and the Ottomans where they were going to build this railway, the Berlin to Baghdad railway, that was going to allow the Ottoman Empire to utilize all this money that Germany had and sell them oil and, all kinds of fucking shit that they were producing. And so the history books show that, okay, yes, this fucking Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, and that caused everything to kick off. Well, it always never made sense that this dude who was basically just a historical nobody other than the only significant thing really was him getting fucking assassinated and being attributed as the spark that caused World War I. There was already this shit in motion with all kinds of weird shit going on with these weird alliances and these weird, and a lot of it had to do with economics, and a lot of it had to do with the Ottoman Empire challenging the world hegemon being the British. And as we know, kind of as that happened, that World War I was kind of the decline of the beginning of the end for the British Empire and their status as the global hegemon. World War I kind of ended that. World War II fucking secured it and crowned the new world hegemon, which became the United States. So we're probably in for a very different type of World War III that's kind of taking place, in my opinion. As it said, World War I was much different than World War II, and World War II is much different than fucking how World War III is going to be, and kind of how it's already shaping out. So the pieces of this pre-World War kind of stuff are already kind of falling into place. And one of the things as well is our economic situation here in the United States. We ain't doing so fucking hot, and we're bailing out the Japanese right now with the yen, and which this is very interesting to me. And again, this is another factor leaning towards a full-out global kind of conflict, is that the two biggest holders of United States Treasury debt are Japan is number one, and the UK is number two right now. It used to be China, but China has sold off a bunch of shit over the last few years because they probably fucking kind of saw this coming. So the Japanese yen, and this is the craziest fucking shit I have ever heard in my life, we are essentially doing the international version of quantitative easing, which is what we did in 2008 when we had our major banking crisis here in the United States, which basically what we did is we printed US dollars and gave them to banks in exchange for US Treasury notes. So we were buying back our own Treasury notes by printing more fucking money. So this was sort of keeping people liquid and keeping them to have liquid cash available to stay afloat. And so that's basically what we're doing right now to the Japanese. They are selling us back our own debt, and we're just printing more dollars and fucking buying it. We're just buying back our own debt, essentially. And we've kind of got right now, we're doing the same thing sort of with the British as well, because their economy is really fucking tanking right now. And this is another, to me, indicator of okay, we are setting ourselves up for a major fall once the first domino falls over. I don't know what it's going to be that does this. It's probably going to be something that will be looked back upon as like, oh, it'll be the assassination of some asshole. It'll be the modern equivalent of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand getting assassinated. It'll be some dumb little shit. It may be this stupid ass fucking Strait of Hormuz bullshit that does it eventually. But I do think that we are headed on a fast course towards some shit. I'm not convinced. There's a lot of people that think that, oh, it'll wait until after the election happens or whatever. Maybe, but I'm not convinced that they're going to wait. And when we look at our own situation here, another unsubstantiated rumor, but one that's making the rounds nonetheless, and again, it seems plausible, is that supposedly during our November elections that Trump has kind of already set up and ordered for the National Guard to go and secure all of the polling sites, like the polling places. So there will be National Guard members at the polling sites. Now, why the fuck you would do that? I don't know. Is it to, oh, they're going to take the votes and then they're going to be taken and counted, or they're going to escort them and observe the countings? Who the fuck knows what the purpose of that could be? But at this juncture, to me, that sounds something like believable. That sounds like a believable thing that would happen. Now, whether it comes to pass or not, who the fuck knows? I guess we'll find out. I'm not saying that I think this is going to happen 100%, but this is just what's been said and kind of like, what's rumored to be going on. The rumor about them changing the nuclear doctrine turned out to be true. So, it's quite possible that this could turn out to be true as well. I guess we'll find out come fucking November. Now, when it comes to how this is going to shake out, right now, as the United States sits, there's a very good possibility that we could just go all out and fucking throw everything we have at everybody who's opposing us, and we could come out on the losing end of that. We could also come out on the winning end, depending on how the fuck this goes. This is some shit that's going to be like, I don't think we're going to fucking be able to accurately predict where this is going, because as we've said before, this shit changes not only on a daily basis, but on an hourly basis. But right now, all the indicators are pointing towards this shit in Iran is definitely not over. Something else is going to continue on. We can't just walk away, because once we walk away, already the rest of the world is like 50-50 on us as to whether or not we're actually capable of being the military superpower that we claim we are. And if we allow this Strait of Hormuz to some small, some country, and I say small or whatever, but some country like Iran to be able to impose its will and charge fees for people coming through and all this stuff, if we allow that to happen, we've basically just proven that, well, we can't fucking do what we want to do, or we can't militarily option our way out of things, which is the fear of military action from the United States has essentially been how we've kept this global fucking kind of superpower role. And we're moving from the unipolar world being us to possibly a multipolar world. I don't think that we're going to be in a period for at least a long time that there will be one major power. I think it's going to become sort of like a regional type thing. And this is where I think China has kind of beaten us to the punch, and they've figured out, okay, this is where it's going, and unipolarity doesn't work. It always seems to fail. Let's try something different and go with a multipolar world and just have regional powers. And that's where they came up with this BRIC system. China will control the Asian hemisphere. Russians will control the European hemisphere, the Iranians, or whoever they make a deal with, depending on if the Iranians fucking survive this conflict with us. Someone else will control the Middle East. They'll have some country controlling Africa. It just seems very, I don't know, not coincidental, but it just seems very intentional that that's why they set up this whole BRICS thing the way they did. And, I keep saying this about how, the United States is sort of a young civilization when you compare us to the Iranians, the Persians, right? The Chinese have been around for thousands of years. The Russians have been around for thousands of years as a contiguous civilization. Yes, they've gone through many changes and many forms of governance and many forms of ups and downs of like where they've stood within the world kind of power rankings and whatnot. The Turks are another one that are sort of emerging as trying to regain this world power status, those are the remnants of the Ottoman Empire.
How so?
Well, the Turks now have developed their own stealth fighter program. Essentially, I forget what it's called. It's called like the Ardo something or whatever. It's some Turkish word. But they are then, and that's part of the deal that they've done with Saudi Arabia, is they're going to give them access to purchase these weapons, these stealth weapons, and these new sort of things, which would make them sort of a regional kind of power. They're not nuclear armed, but they will have military technology that a lot of other countries don't have. Which maybe then they, because China needs someone to run the African sphere, because there aren't really many countries in Africa that could probably take that role on. Maybe that's where the Turkish come in. I think that Pakistan will still probably be the one that ends up controlling the Middle East because they've got the nukes. Iran doesn't, so I think that Iran, I feel like, is being sacrificed as a pawn by the BRICS alliance, to sacrifice them to the United States, to overextend us, to, draw us into some bullshit and to weaken us. And they're willing to sacrifice Iran to do that because they have another proxy in the Middle East that they can use, and that's fucking Pakistan. They could also theoretically let the Turkish do it. But it'll probably be the Pakistanis. And, if I was China, I would let the Turkish run fucking Africa. And you've got...
I don't know if it's that easy, though. The Turkish are part of the European Union,
Well, they're also part of NATO, but they're also like buddy-buddy with the Chinese and the Russians. So it's one of those things where the Turkish for a very long time have been kind of fence riders when it comes to picking a side between the West and the East. And I personally think that the Turkish are fully on board with the BRICS and the Chinese system that they want to do. And I think that they're just kind of like taking advantage of our, they got F-35. Trump said he was going to give them fucking F-35s or some bullshit like a few weeks ago. Okay, like those guys are not reliable. Those guys are not reliable allies. Sure, whatever, they're in NATO, but things change. NATO's sort of useless at this point because it was originally created to fucking defeat, the communist Russia, or a buffer to stop communist Russia and say, hey, you can't just come in like Hitler did and just pick us off individually, because an attack on one is an attack on all, and we'll all gang up on you. So that's kind of what the whole point of fucking NATO was. And Turkey was not interested in becoming a communist country, so that's why they were allowed to join up with NATO. And yeah, I think that they're reliable as an ally? No, I don't think so. I think that their allegiances lie with themselves. And I think that what's his name? Erdogan, the leader, I don't know if he's a fucking president, whatever the fuck title he goes by, but the leader of Turkey, I think that he sees the potential for Turkey to become a world power again, for them to become relevant once more in the global fucking order. And I think that Turkey's gonna do what's best for Turkey, and if that's fucking blowing out the U.S. and going with the Chinese scheme in the multipolar world, well, hey, we want to be one of those multi-pillars of the multipolarity scheme, multipolarity fucking hierarchy. We want to be one of those. And I think that's where they're at. I think that's personally where they're leaning. And, I'm sure I could be wrong, but I think that that's kind of where it's at. The fence sitter is their fence sitting is going to soon come to an end, and they're going to have to make a choice, or they're going to have, I think the choice has already been made, but they're just going to have to be, hey, all in on the choice, and they ain't going to be dealing with us no more. So I think they're just trying to milk us for, Erdogan was kind of sucking ass to fucking Trump when he was there for that NATO summit that they had. And I just think that that's, hey, he knows how to get to Trump. A lot of guys know how to push Trump's buttons. Is you got to be flattering to him, and you can get pretty much what you want. That's what Zelensky did. He went and fucking flattered Trump and told him all these great things about how great he is, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we'll license the fucking Patriot missile system to you guys or whatever. Now, it ain't gonna happen in time for there to be any fucking major difference, because that shit takes fucking a while, and it ain't gonna make no fucking difference at this point. But hey, he got Trump to agree to do it. So I think that's what Turkey's doing, is they're just fucking playing the game, gaming it out. They're trying to get as much out of us, suck as much out of us as they can, and suck as much out of NATO as they can. And they're also like the man on the inside too, in terms of like with the BRICS system. Like, they're like the guy on the inside of the enemy team, kind of like, feeding fucking info or whatever. So In the end, I think we're seeing it's going to be a very quick shakeup when it starts to happen, and it's the ground is starting to tremble a little. Like, that's kind of where we're at right now. And sure, Trump could just decide, fuck it, we're going to walk away and we're going to come back to the Western Hemisphere. We're going to leave everywhere and we're going to let you guys figure it the fuck out. At this point, I kind of think that's the fucking best move to make now that we got ourselves into this. But with that being said, we are going to face a major fucking financial crisis here should we do that. So a little bit of semi-medium term pain when it comes to our financial system here, because once the U.S. gets ousted or shows that it's weak, everybody's gonna fucking dump off the dollar system, because that's the only reason that they've been on it, is because they were afraid that we would come and fuck them up. And all these sanctions and all this shit that we've done on everybody for the last fucking 70 years to impose our will upon them was under threat of military action. And that's the only reason that they worked, was because, well, we'll just come fuck you up. But if somebody shows, well, they tried to fuck us up and it didn't fuck us up really that bad, oh, cool. Well, like, why are we going to be afraid of these guys? So
it might be a unicorn situation, because you also have a country in Iran that I don't know if they controlled the Strait of the Hormuz to begin with, or it was like a regional stewardship, so to speak, between Iran and other countries. But could that situation be played out in any other case? I don't know. I think it would have been, I think Iran had I don't know if it's a once in a lifetime situation, but the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is such a pivotal thing in trade and economics and stuff, that they were able to survive because they have that ace in the hole. Whereas any other country, perhaps they would not have that ace in the hole and would have been obliterated in any other circumstances.
Yeah, well, I mean, we also threw everything at them short of a ground invasion and nuclear weapons. That's which we don't have the ability to invade them on the ground. There's just no fucking way. We don't have that capability, short of a draft. And we didn't throw nukes at them yet. So yeah, despite that, we've thrown our best efforts at them and they've survived. And that's what the fucked end of this whole thing was to begin with, was all they had to do was survive. They didn't, like, we had to completely destroy the regime and have regime change in order for us to win. All they had to do was survive to win. And they survived. The regime survived. So far they won. And yeah, it sucks to say that, but we did not need to jump into this thing. It wasn't necessary. Prior to February 28th, us fucking, attacking them, the Strait of Hormuz was a free and open waterway. Nobody controlled it. So, it's never, the Iranians have vowed it will never go back to the way it was while they're still around, while the regime is still in place. And, part of me doesn't blame them. Why you have this card you can pull now. You've just shown that you can cripple the world and really start fucking shit up just by closing off this waterway and not letting people. You don't even have to physically close it. You just have to show that you're going to launch missiles at ships, and insurance companies close it for you because they won't insure the ships, and the ships ain't going to go out to sea with no insurance, because then that's economically unviable if something were to fucking happen.
You also galvanized an entire country, as if perhaps like there were parts of Iran that weren't on the same page. Well, now you got the whole country on the same page. I mean, you could only look at, you don't have to only look at that situation with the U.S. with 9/11. Like, everybody was on the same page that we should go back and go after Osama bin Laden or whatever. And, for the U.S. to attack the world leader of Iran, or perhaps the most influential figure in Iran, like, shit, man. It'll come back. It'll come back in some way for sure.
Yeah, and then to just say this too, we're now viewed internationally as no longer trustworthy when it comes to negotiations, because we were in the middle of negotiating with them and then we just fucking attacked them. Just surprised, oh yeah, we got a deal, and then bam, we just fucking started hauling off missiles at them, blowing up shit, killed their leader. in the middle of negotiations. So, what does that say to everyone else? Like, oh yeah, you could negotiate with the Americans, but if you don't give them every fucking little thing that they want, well, they're just going to attack you anyways during the negotiations. So, not a good look. Not a good look for diplomacy. And people saying like, oh, why don't we just go the diplomacy route? How? How can we legitimately go the diplomacy route when we attack them during the middle of diplomacy? Like, that makes no fucking sense. Why would anyone trust us?
I think the uncertainty of the whole situation is already kind of determined what the outcome will be.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm trying to think of like an example, but when let's say you were trying to meet up with somebody and the answer, you're like, we're going to meet up at this time, and we're it's supposed to be like a mutually beneficial thing, and you can't even agree on what time you're supposed to meet up, and the person's like, oh, I don't know about that. Let me get back to you on Thursday. And so the answer is no. Like if there was ambiguity to begin with, then the answer is fucking no. So there's no going back on anything. There's no ceasefire on the table. The answer is fucking no. We could hear about all these conversations being had about there being a resolution if it is going to be this Iran and Oman controlling the Strait of Hormuz, and that there's going to be some kind of fee implemented on both ends, entering and exiting. It's not going to happen. I mean, as much as one would like to believe it, we're already past the point of talking and diplomacy, and everything else is on the table.
Yeah, I mean, and we're still surging fucking planes and equipment and shit over there anyways. It's not like we've pulled that back. The pullout that we were doing when the MOU got signed, once we started attacking them again, it automatically just got fucking canceled, and shit was getting sent back. So I think that's what we're doing. This pause it's going to be a temporary pause for us to just kind of get more shit in the area to fucking bombard them. I think we're going to try to do another fucking hefty bombardment of them in an attempt, I guess, to get them to fucking kind of soften their stance, or really it's going to probably be another attempt at a decapitation strike. And I say that because the Israelis keep putting out all these stories about how, all the top level people in Iran it's very difficult to get in communication with the leader, with the new Ayatollah. And, they're questioning if he's even alive, and they're saying, why doesn't he just do one address or one statement? That's just a trap. They're trying to goad him into doing that so then they can figure out where he is so they can fucking blow him up. Like, that's the only reason they're trying to do that. The reason why he's not 100% dead and they don't have the full proof of it is because they don't fucking know where he is. So whatever he's been doing to stay hidden has worked thus far.
Or the opposite is true, that they're already painting him as dead so that when they actually do it, it's not news.
Right, yeah, it's nothing. But I just think that they're trying to goad him into coming out, and it ain't gonna fucking happen. So I think we're just trying to pull that out. And one of the other indicators for that is when Trump and Netanyahu had their little meeting a couple weeks ago over at, I don't know where the fuck, Camp David or where the fuck they were at. Netanyahu didn't have a lot to say, but when he came out of that meeting, he was all fucking smiles and just said it was a great meeting. And there's been a lot less criticism from the Israelis about what we're doing and how we're handling this since that meeting happened. And I think there's a reason for that. I think that's because they made some deal that obviously made Netanyahu giddy as a schoolgirl, and he was real happy with. And to me, that indicates something big is going to happen before the elections that are supposed to happen in October in Israel. Because that's the only fucking way that Netanyahu will maintain his hold on power, is if he can decisively fucking say, like, hey, look, I got the Americans to fucking drop nukes on him, or we dropped a nuke on him, or did something and got him to fucking go away.
We dissolved the ICC.
Yeah, or some shit like that, right? Like, that's because they want to get him within his own country. There's elements of within his own country that want to put him in jail, but they can't do it while they're at quote unquote war and while he's still the prime minister. Yeah. So the only way he avoids that is to stay prime minister, and then to also do something so decisive that brings them such a great victory that people will just forgive him. That he will just be forgiven for all the shit, that the corruption and everything that they wanted to get him on. And for him to come out of that meeting with Trump happy, I have a feeling that it's because that they made some deal that, hey, yeah, this MOU, okay, we attacked him again and the shit didn't work. We're going to try something. We're going to try this thing or whatever. And again, maybe he showed him the draft of the nuclear doctrine policy and said, hey, look, this is what we're going to change shit to. And yeah, we're just going to use tactical nukes on him. What do you think about that? And oh, hell yeah, because now that opens the door for Israel to fucking use them. And maybe we're even going to let them use them as well on Iran. And Israel would not be afraid of retaliation because, well, if we nuke all these sites in Iran that have all their shit, well, it's going to hamper their ability to attack. It's the only way to really decisively fucking do it, which is terrible. And we're all fucked if that happens. But I think that's the deal they came up with. So I guess we'll see. So anyways, I think that's pretty much all I had. We went for 50 minutes. So what, you got anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, the president making remarks about oil prices being too high. What do you make of that?
That's another fucking thing. They're manipulating the oil market. It's very obvious. It's very heavily fucking manipulated, and they have shown an ability to be able to manipulate it regardless of what's happening. And they're manipulating paper prices, which I don't know if people know this, but diesel fucking fuel here in California is almost $8 a gallon. It's like $7.60 at some fucking gas stations, or $7.65. So despite them lowering artificially the price of paper oil, it's not having an effect on the physical price of the refined products of gasoline. And they're basically just lying their way out of it. And I was in Idaho. He said today, I was in Idaho a week ago or last week, and gas was $1.50 there. That ain't fucking true. There ain't nowhere fucking gas is $1.50. So
what do you think it actually is that he was saying? Because I was thinking it might have to more do with optics, and
that's the whole reason it's optics, because people are stupid, and this is the 1984 shit. Believe what the party tells you. Do not believe what your eyes see, for they lie to you. Believe what the party tells you, or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what's happening right now. That's what they're doing, and they're doing it at the benefit of themselves. Because I also think that Trump and his cohorts and all these congressmen and shit are heavily profiting off of this oil market manipulation.
But it can't be enough to the point that, I mean, it's hurting like every U.S. citizen.
Oh, yeah.
So saying that is enough to maybe satiate people's minds.
Yeah.
But it still hurts. Like, and there's no answer for that. There's no answer.
There's none.
There's no remedy that is gonna. I mean, even like the whole thing with the tariffs refund. No, people are not fucking seeing a dime of that shit because it's going to like Amazon and, you know, every other major corporate.
And if you, not to interrupt you, but if you look at like the oil companies, right, their Q2 that this shit was all going on,
astronomical.
They're most profitable since, like, they said that it's basically the second most profitable fucking quarter they've had in their history. Mm-hmm. The one being when the Russian-Ukraine war first broke out, there was this huge scarcity that everybody thought oil was going to be fucking impossible to get, or there was going to be some shit. So there was this huge surge in prices, and they made a huge fucking amount of profit. And this Q2 you hear was now the highest fucking second highest one or whatever they've had in their fucking history. Same thing with all these huge corporate profits, those tariffs that we paid for. We paid the increased prices for those fucking tariffs to buy these things because it wasn't. And again, what's really pisses me off too when you look at it is, oh no, they said that the country who's importing it is gonna fucking pay the tariffs. Okay, well, why are you refunding all these fucking tariffs to the companies that are the American companies? The place that they bought it from should have paid the tariff that was in China or Japan or wherever the fuck they bought this shit from or had to import it from. They would have paid the tariff if that was true. So it turned out that even that line was bullshit. That the American companies had to pay the tariffs to import shit, and they paid it and then passed the price on to the consumer. And now that they were deemed unconstitutional, which I think they thought all along they knew it was gonna happen. Now they just basically refunded them all this fucking money. So these corporations just made these huge profits and got to they got to have their cake and eat it too. They got to increase the price to offset the tariff, and then they got all the tariff back. So they made profit on this deal, a huge profit on this. They didn't lose any fucking money.
Yeah.
Hell, they didn't even lose any money paying the tariffs in the first fucking place because they passed the price on to us, and we paid the tariff.
It's like a 2-tier system, man. It's like like a 2008 when the bank or the banks got bailed out.
Too big to fail was the word that they kept using. Oh, so you can be a bank that's so big that, the government will never let you fail.
Yeah.
Well, what about the people? What about Joe Schmo who couldn't afford his fucking mortgage? He's not too big to fail?
Yeah.
So he gets to lose his house. Meanwhile, the bank gets to fucking make stupid decisions and still make a profit.
And get rewarded for it.
And make a fucking profit, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And that's where this House of Cards financially, we're just enveloping ourselves deeper in this shit with that international quantitative easing that we're doing essentially with Japan. We're just fucking ourselves further. Because it's going to fuck our inflation here and make everything else is going up. And this House of Cards that we have financially built is going to be fucking collapsing.
Or it's so preposterous of a situation that two wrongs make a right.
Like, that could be. Maybe that could also happen, which would be fucking hilarious. Goddamn, I hope that happens. Because fuck, that would save us a lot of trouble here.
Yeah.
It'd save us a lot of money too.
Yeah.
But in the end, it ain't going to happen. We're all fucked. So... anyways, I guess that's the end of it. You got anything else?
No.
All right. Go follow us on all our shit. And, Game Rage Magazine, fucking all gas, no trash for Adam. And, fucking have a good one. And hopefully we don't die. We'll see.
That was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.